All right, we're back again. TK Pod number whatever. Don't even have time or energy to know what episode that we're on. I always figure it out afterwards. And for I don't know, the 20th or 30th podcast in a row, you guys did not hear an intro if you're watching or listening because the priority level of me recording a new intro for this since the other one somehow got corrupted very, very low. Nonetheless, here you are. Everything is still good. It's all good, baby. You can still listen to the podcast. There's just no fun production around it, and there never really has been for this show. So I hope you're enjoying it all the same. Today on the show, we're going to talk very quickly because I have some other stuff to do, and I'm tired. Now, why would I be tired, you ask? Well, if you've been following along, baby Brooks, baby boy, is 2.5 weeks old today. I wouldn't call him a bad sleeper, but it was a bad night. It was a rough night. Uh, he sleeps well once he gets there, most of the time. For anyone who's had children, you understand that we're currently in that that first month or 2 month figure it out period where you know the baby's essentially on like a 2 to 3 hour schedule. And Kin Diesel, first kid, was solid, locked in. Just felt like and maybe I'm misremembering, but I'm pretty sure it's correct. She was just bang, 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 like from the jump, every 3 hours on the dot. Internal schedule was just money. Brooks has been a little bit different. Um, and again, this isn't a situation where we're up all night with him just screaming his head off. Guy just doesn't want to sleep. Just sits over there and kind of clicks and coos and all the baby sounds. And then he gets irritated and he cries a little bit, but the schedule's just sporadic. Last night happened to be one of the worst nights so far. I'm probably running on somewhere between 4 to 5 hours of sleep, and that sleep that I did get was not good. So we persevere, right? It was our decision. This is the funny thing about having kids and people start complaining. Oh, I'm not getting enough sleep. This isn't me complaining. This is just me telling it how it is. This was my decision, our decision to have a child, knowing that this is part of the deal. Therefore, in the ensuing months when that child comes into the world, you have to be ready and align your expectations with the potential outcomes of what having a baby is. And that is currently where we are. So, all that to say, I'm not going to go for 30 minutes today because, quite honestly, I need a nap. What we are going to talk about today is I'm going to circle back around to a couple things that I did not get to last week. Um, One of those things is I completely skipped over. I think it was the week that I was it the week I didn't podcast. Maybe I don't remember. I was prepping for the baby and we were trying to get all this stuff done, and so we were planning ahead. And in the middle of all that, I decided, not decided, I did Murph, and had a lifetime PR on Murph, and I've probably done Murph. Um, I I guess there's a million different ways you can kind of consider it. I would consider Murph RX if you do it with a vest, and if you do 100, 1 mile, 100, 200, 300 total reps, 1 mile. And I think I still consider it in my head RX or as prescribed if you're breaking those up into um, rounds of push-ups or pull-ups, push-ups, squats, or if you do them straight through unpartitioned. So unpartitioned or partitioned, still totally different workout. Not totally, but different workout. But still both count. And so you kind of have like I would say two different Murph PRs if you've ever done them multiple times and tried both. Um, Unpartitioned definitely like the worst way you can do it. Horrible, very hard. I think my PR on that is somewhere just under 50 minutes. Um, Unpartitioned, for those that don't know, means you run the mile and then you do 100 pull-ups and you don't move on to the push-ups until you finish 100 pull-ups, and then you start in on your 200 push-ups. That's the real sticking point of the workout. You do not start your 300 squats until you finish the 200 push-ups, and then you finish out with the 300 squats, and then you go into that last mile run. Obviously, that is much harder for two main reasons. One, the general localized fatigue in the one muscle group of doing 100 or 200 or 300 reps at a time makes it so that the recovery is, you just have to recover more in between the little sets that you're doing. Number two is you finish on those squats and you've just done 300 squats in a row without doing anything else, no push ups or pull ups in between to cycle around through, and you go right into that second run. So, unpartitioned, you're probably looking at a 20, like anywhere between a 20 and 15, 20 plus percent slower time than if you partition it, which is how I did it this year. And you can partition it any way you want to do those reps. Probably the two most common are um, 10 sets of 10, 20, 30, or 20 sets of 5, 10, 15. I went with the 5, 10, 15 version. It is the most what I would call hectic and fast, meaning because you're going 20 sets, I suppose you could do even more sets than that. Um, but 20 sets gives you those small chunks of 5 pull-ups, 10 push-ups, 15 squats, and really allows you to kind of never rest if you stay on top of things. Um, Especially if you have the fitness to do so, somebody at, the level at which I've trained to. And so it was a pretty, pedal to the metal, even though we're, you know, detrained, not really peaked right now. We were still able to pull out a 38:47 Murph time. Never gone sub 40 on Murph. Partition time, I think, was somewhere in like the 41-minute range. 41:41, I believe. And so, this is almost a 3-minute PR in a time where, again, self-admittedly have not been training the most. And so that was a fun little thing that happened sort of around the time baby was born. And just another one of those things that's a nice sign, a nice training benchmark that says, well, you are actually the fittest you've ever been right now, even though you may not feel like it. Um, Along with what we talked about last week, that 280 snatch. There's just a lot of things that are lining up well right now that say, I'm actually the best I've ever been. Even if there's some places I could be a little bit more well-rounded, we're doing all right. Still no plans on the personal fitness side of things to sign up for anything qualifier or competition wise until probably October, which is when um, the Wadapalooza stuff will come back around. As of right now, I think at least Isaac thinks that we're gonna make a run at that again. I don't know if we're gonna swing that or not. We'll see. It's a lot of money and investment in multiple ways to try and make that happen and do a 4 or 5 day trip to Miami in the middle of the spring. We will be almost a full year out from baby being born, so we'll be fully into a routine and have plenty of time and agency. Good word, as we're going to move into the second half of this podcast, agency to make it happen if we want to, but there's a lot of considerations. We'll probably at least do the qualifier, just to stay sharp and feel the competitive vibes again and all the stuff, and give us the opportunity if we want to go. Um, and again, last week I kind of mentioned it, but and same with today. We're kind of qualifying these things as like, I'm not the fittest I've ever been right now, but I am. You know, um, we're having it's a weird sort of place where I'm in a maintenance stage. And for someone who trains as intentional and as hard as I do most of the time, you know, when I'm not right in the middle of having a newborn baby for basically the last 5 years, you get into this weird mental state of feeling out of shape because you're doing so much less than normal, even though your actual physical ability in any given workout is probably just maintained or or even still getting slightly better. You're just not progressing um at the rate that you normally are. And so the illusion is because you're going slower than normal, you're actually going backwards. And it's just a mental mind fuck that you have to go through. And that could be with anything. I mean, anything that you're pushing forward to goal wise, life wise, anything that you can measure progress in. When you take a step back, you take your foot off the gas, just the act of doing that is going to trick you into thinking that you're actually going backwards. And you could be, but you could not be. And just because you're going at a different speed, the perception is that you're not moving forward. Um, so, you know, something we're dealing with right now. Still getting our workouts in, even today. I don't know if it's going to be uh, I don't know if I'm going to turn today into what tomorrow usually is. Thursday is generally the zone 2 day, pure cardio, just go for a run or just go for a Peloton ride. Um, because of the horrible sleep last night, I don't know if I'm going to do that today to kind of back off or if I'm just going to take the hit and do whatever I was supposed to today. Um, I've been sandbagging a lot. I've been cutting rounds off, stopping workouts early because I just don't have juice in the tank, and that's a combination of again not being peaked, not being able to handle certain amounts of volume, but also the weather starting to get really hot. We quickly, as Iowa always does, around the time of online semifinals, we were in the 50s and 60s range temperature wise. And later this week, just, a month and a half, 2 months later, we'll be sitting, in the mid to high 90s. And the humidity exponentially higher than it was a couple months ago. So the environment, the garage has gotten a lot stickier. Um, and for anybody who's trained at a high level before, the effect that temperature has on training and physical output ability. So several factors in why I could be very not proud of some of the efforts I put in recently. But again, it's one of those stages in life where you kind of just have to be proud that you put in an effort at all because most people don't. Um, and so that's kind of where we're at. As much as I would love to be playing disc golf right now on the disc golf update side of things, um, we're just not. I might get out and play. eh, I might get out and play tomorrow or Friday if I get the chance to. But there's not a lot of planning going on right now of like, oh, next week I'm going to play this course. This week I'm going to play this course. Part of that is simply because um, we're home with the brand new baby and I feel guilty going and driving somewhere for 15 or 20 minutes, playing for an hour and a half, driving, but spending 2 hours of a day when I'm already trying to also spend 90 minutes of a day training, 60 to 90 minutes of a day working out, to then add on top of that another 2 hours of playing disc golf. It's not super respectful to my wife, who's at home with the kid. Um, so, yeah, but then, the other side of things is too, she's home for the summer slash maternity leave, whatever you want to consider it as. She'd be home anyway, even if we didn't have a baby. And when she's home, I like to spend time with her. So during June and July, those disc golf opportunities kind of fade a little bit. And then, yeah, and then that's pretty much it. So that's where we're at. Personal agency. I want to talk about that for 3 to 5 minutes here, um, and then we'll call it a pod. Uh, And of course, I've gone longer than I thought I would already. Um, this is something I've been thinking about, and again, the kids, they give me a lot of ideas pop into my brain when I see them do things or learn things or observe them and how they are just figuring out life as a little kid. Um, And I draw a lot of parallels between things that they're doing and then how that manifests itself as an adult for me in my life. Just a lot of weird things going on in my brain. And the one that's currently bouncing around is personal agency. Uh, AI overview, little Google definition says personal agency, also known as self agency, is the capacity of an individual to act independently and make their own choices, which I think is it's a succinct definition, and I think can sort of be applied in several different ways. Of course, personal agency could be as simple as like, hey, I'm just making my own decisions um, relative to how I'm influenced by a group of people, right? Like, do I have the personal agency to really do what I want to do, or do I succumb to a group think or a group decision, right? Um, it manifests itself in a way for my kid, the older one at daycare, where as something as simple as she's still young enough um, right now where she takes a at this new school she goes to. It's the first year or two that they've been doing a two room, um, a room for 2 year olds. As a 2 year old, your personal agency is fairly low in life, but they still expect them to bring a lunchbox and have a lunch, which means that they sit down at a table with their friends as 2 year olds and expect them to open their lunchbox and eat their lunch, and that's hard for a 2 year old. The lunchbox these first couple weeks has come home half full still, when I know that she loves all the food that we're sending and loves to eat. Um, and it just got me thinking, like, yeah, she doesn't currently have the best self-agency to be patient, sit down, kind of stay in one place, not get distracted by her friends who are also eating lunch and the colors on their lunchbox and what they have for food in their lunch, and sit there and understand, like, oh, I have a certain amount of time designated right now. It's called lunch, and I need to get this food in my stomach. There isn't that agency, right? It's something as simple and like easy as just like, hey, I have a certain amount of time to eat. I need to eat my food. A 2 year old has a very hard time doing that. All the way out to something that I struggled with like as a young adult in college, at a high school, off on my own in Iowa City, um, figuring out life on my own. Uh, Something that I would say more than uh, more than your average, not to some crazy extent, but I have struggled with that self agency in the past, where um, or at least self perceived, I have, where I just feel like I could do a better job of figuring things out on my own. I'm sometimes hesitant or um yeah, hesitant to ask questions or to go and figure things out, or I have been in the past. I feel like I'm actually swung myself to the other end of the spectrum and I actually have great self-agency now. Um but it was something that when I was younger, I always wanted to have better of that, and there's sort of a weird inception meta where you need personal agency to be better at personal agency kind of thing. I didn't realize that I could just make the decision to be more self-reliant, um, more of a capacity to make my own decisions. And there's reasons for that, right? Fear of failure, fear of embarrassment or looking stupid or asking a dumb question, whatever it may be. Um, and now as an adult, 30, going on 31 this year with two kids, a lot of life experiences happen. At this point, we've now had 2 children. We've bought a house. I have owned and operated 2 separate businesses, starting a third one here this year with my brothers, which you'll continue to hear more about. Um, I kind of realized like my whole fucking life right now is almost about self agency, right? And uh, it's a really important thing to have. There's a lot of people who go through life, I feel like, or I observe, they go through life and they're just kind of letting life happen to them. There did, you know, and a little bit of this is correlated to the career thing. Not saying that people who work for somebody else, they work the 9 to 5, they have a boss, they have somebody who tells them what to do, they have a list of tasks and reports and stuff that they have to get done. Not saying those people don't have self-agency, but there's a level at which you are forced into that self-agency when you're self-employed. You're doing your own thing. There's a greater level of self-agency when you go from being just a person to somebody with a child, right? All these things kind of up that level of personal accountability and acting on your own and making your own choices. Um, and it's something that as a parent, I am now going to try and foster in my children, because I think having that skill of making your own decisions and being able to separate yourself from others' opinions or thoughts or decisions that they want to make a decision that's best for you is really, really important. And obviously a sign of maturity, but I think something that can be fostered in a child as they grow up and different stuff. So just something I've been thinking of, and something I think we all should be working on as a just a productive human in life is just having control of the personal agency in your life, always making your own decisions, you know, almost standing up for yourself, having input on your life. Um, and of course, that's I feel strongly about it because some of that self agency has led me to work for myself, create a career for myself, which has brought me a lot of happiness, a lot of freedom. I don't know. Just a topic that has been swirling in my head. I hope you got something out of that. Always happy to be here on the TK Pod. Thank you guys, as always, for being here to listen to me and all my rambling thoughts. We'll be back next week. Until then, peace.